Let's bring in Brad. Big get for the show.
BG.
Former top 5 player, Olympic medalist, former coach to multiple Hall of Famers. And we love having him on, talk all things tennis. What's up, Brad? It's good to see you. We got Nick, we got Nolsey, Jeannie, and myself. How's life these days? Where are you at? You're in the boo.
Good morning. I'm in Malibu. You got 4 on the table. I feel honored here. Everything all good. I just got back a couple days ago from Rome. And I turn on the TV now just before you guys, and we've got an American Pope.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we broke the news. We saw the white smoke, but we didn't know when.
The conclave. I got out of there
Yeah.
before the conclave started.
Wow.
BG,
You're breaking news.
Breaking news.
I know.
Thank you,
BG. BG comes in hot. BG, what were you doing over there in Rome?
The Italian Federation, this guy, Donato, last year I was there at the tournament coaching Coco, and he says, we have this big coaching symposium. Would you come? And I said, I'll think about it. And, he kept on me for a few months. It's like, really like to have you. We have like 2,500 coaches. We have a bunch of coaches that make presentations. And I said, sure. And after I said, sure, I had, was still working with Coco. And I was like, okay, maybe I'll still get there. But I'm glad I went. It was pretty amazing. They had about a dozen people that presented. Everyone gets exactly like 30 minutes. And I was last, and it was pretty easy. It was a Q&A. And then I did a more of a talk with 250 Italian coaches the next day, asking a lot about, tennis specific and coaching specific stuff.
BG, you mentioned Coco, and you spent so much time with her, and she made the finals last week in Madrid. What were you so impressed with her in Madrid?
That she got bageled the first set of the first round. And it just shows you sometimes that, you fight your way out of a match. Good things can happen. That's such the big difference for a lot of players, is finding ways to get through matches that I call are the 50-50 matches, maybe the less than 50% matches. You're not feeling great, but you find a way to get through those matches. That gives you the opportunity to play better, as the tournament goes on. And sometimes it relaxes you more than anything. I call sometimes when you escape a first round match, it's like house money.
BG, Nolsey here, obviously a top 5 player. You've been around the game forever. You've coached a lot of the all-time greats. I'm curious, you just said that you returned from Rome. You've obviously seen the game from so many different angles, but especially your era and the preceding eras, there were always so many top Americans. I wonder if there was anything you saw in Italy. We see 9 Italians in the top 100, obviously at the top of the game, Jannik Sinner. Do you see anything that they're doing that's causing all of the success?
Well, one thing's for sure, they've done an incredible job, Mark, starting with the juniors. I believe the United States has something like 19 ITF, the high-level junior tournaments. There's like 350 in Europe, and I think that, Italy has the most, maybe they have 75 or 80. So they've done a great job of allowing their young players to play in their country and in Europe. And then they've got a ton of futures and challengers. So I think that's really been a big key for their success, because a lot of their players don't go to college and they start playing at 16, 17. And so if you can play the futures, ITFs, and you can play challengers until maybe you're 20, 21 and not have to spend a ton of dough, I think it's extremely helpful.
That's interesting. We were talking about this earlier. Hi, Brad.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. About how sometimes the Americans actually don't play the junior circuit at all, and they do a totally different route, and then obviously sometimes ending up going to college. So what's your opinion on that, and if that, because you see the Italians doing the other way, where they're playing a lot of juniors and the ITFs and the challengers, do you think the Americans generally should be doing that more in their, learning phase in the teenage years?
Well, Jeannie, I think that obviously what Europe has done, the way they've dominated the majors, obviously for a long time, it's a great mix that a lot of their junior players and obviously pros is learning to play on the 2 different services of red clay, which teaches you how to build points, discipline, and literally at a young age, how to build points. It's invaluable, helps you with your movement. And then in a lot of countries in Europe, you learn to play on fast indoors. So I do think those two contrasting styles are incredibly helpful to becoming a really good player. And obviously, it's been the recipe for the last 20 years. It's been the most successful.
Yo, this is wild. We got a 19-minute game. This is one of those perfect examples where everyone wants a deciding point. The players don't even want to keep going here. Okay, I got an unofficial.
This is a mini set.
Yes,
this is not a mini set. I mean,
20 minutes.
I mean, you could have an Isner set be shorter.
Ridiculous. You're absolutely right. Okay, we got an unofficial poll here with all our expert guests like yourself. We asked Robbie Koenig this question. What are you more confident in happening at Roland Garros, Brad? Are you more confident that Novak Djokovic gets to the second week? That means he gets to the round of 16 for people at home. He needs to win 3 matches. Or Iga Swiatek makes the final. What are you more confident in happening? Obviously, both can happen.
Jeez, it's not. It's a good question.
There we go.
Obviously, it's a little bit concerning that Novak, kind of, pulled out of Rome, has played very little.
Yeah.
But knowing how he is, and playing best of 5 sets, and how he knows how to navigate himself, I like his chances still to get to the second week. Obviously, you don't know his draw. And Swiatek, crazy. It's been 48 weeks now since she's won a tournament.
Or made a final, yeah.
And you build up the equity of, beating lots of players, and especially on this surface, and you almost think it's a given she's going to make a deep run. But I think the biggest change is, all of you know that have played, when you start losing a few matches, and especially players that haven't had much success against you, a lot of players come out with a completely different perspective playing you, and an attitude that, wow, that maybe there's a decent opportunity where 12 months ago there was maybe zero hope, or you hope not to get crushed. Mm-hmm. So she is facing that challenge now. Players are playing with a completely different attitude towards her. I probably would say it's a safer bet that maybe Joker makes the second week that she makes the final. All right. But I like, I still need to see the draw of both of them.
I think you're right. I mean, I think with Swiatek and with Novak, I mean, it used to be where, they'd come out and they've already won the first set. Players are already like, wait a second, I'm playing Novak or I'm playing Iga. I'm already down a set. And now that's not the case anymore. But Brad, I'm always so interested in your mind. You're so good with strategy and the mental side of the games. How do you help your players kind of turn around matches mentally and tactically? I know with Coco, you were able to help her kind of being on the sideline, but when you're coaching someone, how do you help them turn around matches, and what do you tell your players?
Well, obviously now it's a big change that coaching is legal, and you can talk to your player when they're on your side, so it's no longer cheating. You don't have to do the third base coaching. So that's obviously, the big balance in learning that. Some players like to communicate every single point. Some don't like to communicate a lot. Actually, Coco didn't like to communicate a ton during the matches. I'm sure that I probably would have done this a ton with Andre. Some players are a little better. Sometimes you can do it too much. I think the most important thing is really understanding how you're under pressure making points. How do you, make your best plays happen? And then maybe the side or the part of your game that maybe can get, have a little areas of concern. How do you manage that? So often it's about how you maximize and how you manage. And then when you can learn those two simple concepts, you can play so much better in using your weapons and maximizing them.
BG, it's a friendly show here. Obviously, you've been alongside so many of the great champions in some big title runs. 6 of Andre's 8 majors under your guidance. I just wonder, can you share with us what's been the best celebration for you with everyone, with both Andys, Andre, Coco? Anything stand out?
Does anything stand out? Listen, as a coach, as a player, any win is a great win. And in these majors, you know, for the guys, it takes 21 sets, you count them backwards. I would say with the women, it's 14 sets, you count them backwards. But I feel like for Andre, we had an amazing start and then kind of dropped off a cliff at the end of 97. And it was about a 18-month, you know, complete turnaround to get to the French of 99. I felt like I did my greatest coaching ever just to get Andre to come back. Literally, we hadn't hit a ball for 6 days. He'd been hurt. And I felt like that was my best coaching, just to get him to go there. And then the way he had to battle through 5 matches at that tournament, I would say that Andre winning the 99 French, and we had a blowout night that night. That was a night for the ages. We threw down quite a few cocktails and had a legendary night with some legendary players in Paris. It was a fun night, to say the least.
Nice.
Sweet.
I love that. Work hard, play hard. Looking forward to the French Open. On the women's side, who do you see as a potential dark horse? If someone were to unexpectedly have a really good result, what female player would that be in your mind?
Well, Jeannie, we had probably up until a couple of years ago, I think we had something like 28 out of 30 majors where we had an unseeded player make the semis. And obviously on this surface, Swiatek has dominated, you know, pretty much the last 5 years. But I feel like, based upon the way she's been playing, and listen, she was a smidge from going out second round last year to Osaka, who, you know, had won the second set 6-1, had 3-0 in the third, 4-4-1, had a match point, and you kind of feel like maybe had she not won that match second round last year, the tournament could have been obviously way different. So I do think that we will get some unexpected. There's a couple players up at the, you know, the highest part of the ranking that maybe clay isn't their best surface, but I do think also the weather plays a massive factor. If you get hot and dry conditions, which doesn't happen that much in Paris, the court plays significantly quicker, which then I think gives a lot more players the opportunity. If you have colder, slower conditions, I do think it narrows the field considerably.
No name? Did we get a name?
Did we get a dark horse name?
You could flip out your rankings. We got time, or you can just think about it and we can come back to it.
You know what it is I mean, it's so much easier to prognosticate once you have the draw and you look at the sections.
Okay.
But Sabalenka, obviously, at the top of the rankings, you know, is playing, you know, the best tennis of her career on clay. And I think strength in numbers on the American side is going to be a huge factor. You could have literally one section where you have 3 or 4 American seeds. So I mean, obviously we had Coco get to the semis. I will be surprised if we don't have at least one American not in the semis, if not 2. So I do think there's going to be some upsets, and I think there's going to be opportunities. And, you know, and it could be a section, like I said, maybe it's just a loaded American section.
Like that.
BG, you're a sports fanatic, of course, but I got to transition a little bit. How are we feeling about the Warriors with Curry down with the hammy?
He's bummed.
I'm a bit disheveled, to say the least. And he was cooking in game 1. They were gonna blow the T-Wolves out. I mean, so a little bit like what's going on in the rankings now. Sometimes you say strength in numbers, and strength in numbers will massively have to be in play. And crazy, Steph, for 37 years old, he said this is the very first time in his career at any point that he ever had a muscle strain.
Wow.
And obviously a muscle strain, especially a hamstring, you know, we just saw Novak go through this in Australia. So age isn't on his side, and he is the perpetual motion. If you ever threw Rafa and Fed in the blender, you get Steph Curry. I mean, Steph's got his physical attributes, his perpetual movement, and he's got Federer's artistry. And he's a pure joy to watch. But the fact that he's so fit and can move the way he does at 37, movement is such a part of his game, and it's like you rush a hamstring back, it's incredibly difficult. But if he can come back, I think we got a shot. I don't know if we can tread water till he gets back. So I'd say at least 2 weeks he's gone. So that means we're going to have to at least win a couple of games against T-Wolves. So long-winded answer, I'm extremely worried.
Yeah, well said. Shout out to the graphics team, just
They were
ready to
all
talk
over it.
NBA. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So now we're on Centrale, by the way. Fonini making his 18th Rome appearance, still looking for his first win this season. Now he's taking on the second highest ranked Brit, who was actually 12 months ago. He was in college playing in the NCAAs for TCU. What's a facet of the game, Brad, whether it's a shot, a strategy, something that you think either goes under practiced or underappreciated?
Well, I mean, obviously, Jeff, there's a lot of facets, and the game has changed a lot. But I feel like for me, when I turned pro after going 3 years to college, my coach, told me something that was like hugely important, is that there's only one winner a week, and you can go long stretches without winning a title. And so many that have come from the juniors, I wasn't a prolific junior, but so many of these great juniors, that's me way back in the day with the jockey in '89, and got the mullet going almost. Shirt's a little bit too big for me there.
That was the thing back in the day. That was the era. That was the style.
Yeah, we would go short shorts, big shirts, big hair.
We should bring that back. I kind of like that look.
It was a bad look back in the late '80s. Now it's short, it's short socks, long shorts. But you got to learn how, fellas, and you need to lose. And you got to be resilient on the tour. And that's really something that you got to learn right away. If you're not a phenom and you just start crushing people, is that you have to learn how to each week not let one loss become 6 losses and not get down. And you still got to work hard because you never know when opportunity is going to knock. And that's so much what the tour is about, being resilient, being tough, and be ready for that opportunity when it presents itself.
BG, sorry, I was gone for a second. I wanted to,
look at that. Look at that.
look at those shorts.
Who
and
needs
the
to
socks.
bend on the return?
Bend your back instead.
Everyone knew when they were playing BG it was going to be a long day. BG, I wonder for you, how has your coaching style changed? We talk about you coaching Andre, Roddick, Coco Gauff, Andy Murray. I mean, so many different players, different eras. Has your coaching style changed at all throughout the course of time?
The most important thing about coaching is understanding the player that you're coaching, and you're looking through their lens. And it's not what you as the player would do, or you never compare one player to somebody else that you've coached. And I think the thing that's most important that I've learned is that once you start with the player, whatever's happened before doesn't matter. It's not coming back. You start day one and you start trying to help them fulfill their dreams, become the best player that they can become. I don't have a coaching style. My style is to help the player maximize what they're doing and understand their game maybe a little bit better, how they can make their game work better for them, how maybe other players are trying to get to their game. So it's learning the little nuances I think are as important as anything, and they're so important as a coach. The game, since all of us started, it's the same size, the same scoring. Everything is the same. Obviously, we have superior athletes and they're flying around the court, but the basis of the game is still the same, and the big points are still the big points. 5-6 points, a set changed so many sets every match.
And Brad, we saw your game. We saw a point there. I know Nosey knows you really well, and maybe played against you. But what was your thought process when you played on the tour? Because we watched those points, and you were having long points. You junk it up a little bit. But what was your mentality going in against the opponents that you played?
Find the 4 most valuable words in tennis. You know what that is?
No, we don't. Because I'm not sure what BG is going to say.
It was a real question. He was waiting for an answer.
Yeah, a game, set, match, Gilbert.
I like it.
It's very simplistic. My dad as a kid always thought he was like giving me this amazing wisdom. He would always tell me, like, win the last point. And you look at him, and I was like, okay. And it's like, literally, he still thinks that, like, even if I'm coaching somebody, make sure they win the last point. He thinks he's saying something really significant. And then he used to always tell me, do not miss. You know, make sure they miss before you. And like, he would tell me these most simple things. And, you know, I wished I had a game that, like, I could go through people like Andre. But my best success was keeping balls in play, sneaking in, grinding, working. I asked God every year, you know, for a better serve. He never gave it to me. But for me, just having the chance to compete was more than anything for me. That's the, if you ask me what I love most about playing, and that obviously you don't get after you're done, is just that chance to compete. Try to take something that someone's trying to take from you in simplistic terms.
BG, Nosey here. First of all, I see you shared the bronze medal with Edberg. You guys get half, or what happened there? I obviously didn't play the third and fourth there. Would you have taken Edberg in that match?
Shit, no. I mean, that was the only year that they had a split bronze. And probably one of my biggest regrets. I remember when I started coaching Andre, and he was at my house. He was looking at the big penny, and he asked me if I had any regrets. And, you know, I never really thought any tournament was different. You know, I didn't peak for the majors. I learned that from Andre, and I just played every tournament like it was like the most important tournament. I got to the semis. I had been struggling, and all of a sudden, my draw was Tim Mayotte to play Machir. Machir had just beaten Edberg, and for some reason, you know, I was coming off of a long injury. I didn't really give myself a chance. I like got ahead of myself. I literally thought, like, I've got this goal, you know, and I did the fatal mistake of cashing the check before it was in the hand.
The big cat's dangerous, the big cat.
Yeah, and I went out and played a woeful match against my teammate, Tim Mayotte. I lost, you know, all the matches then were best of 5. I lost 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, and the courts were lightning fast. Would have lost to Edberg in that bronze medal playoff. But the sad thing was, like, 3 weeks later at Bercy, I thumped Machir, like
Mayotte.
in maybe the round of 16, and then I beat Mayotte, but I didn't get the gold. So that, you know.
What a lesson.
But I mean, just getting to play, honestly, that was probably the highlight of my tennis career. You never hear your name mentioned once in the tournament. It's Game USA.
Brad, we just saw that picture of Gil Reyes standing next to Andre Agassi, and that guy is an absolute genius when it comes to fitness, I feel like. What did Andre learn from him? What did you learn from him to make him at his fittest ability, Andre Agassi?
You know, the most amazing thing about Gil, I mean, you look at him as on his size, and you think he's this huge, you know, physical guy. He's one of the most beautiful people that I've ever met. He's a gentle giant, and if anybody ever has your back, it's him. And he truly had amazing love for Andre and wanted nothing more to help Andre, you know, fulfill his dreams. And when Andre was right, you know, Gil could put him in a position to where he felt like literally he could go through a wall. I mean, he would put in, you know, the hard work in Vegas, running the hills, doing his training. Gil would get those special Gil waters. And I tell you, one person you did not want to play in 100-degree heat and maybe a little bit of wind was Andre, especially in Australia. Yeah. Sometimes we'd be going to the courts and it would be like oppressive weather. He maybe would tap me on the thigh and say, "What a beautiful day to make somebody cramp."
Oh, I love that.
That's amazing.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've actually spent some time training in Vegas, Brad, as you know, and you and I got on the court together as well. I remember Gil saying at one point that they would actually ask the tournament director of the Australian Open for him to play in the worst heat, like at 2 p.m. in the middle of the day, because he knew he was ready and his opponents were not. Wow. But just quickly, how is your relationship with Andre now? Do you guys keep in touch? Do you play pickleball together? We know Andre is obsessed with pickleball now.
No, we still talk a ton, Jeannie. He's an amazing person. He's had incredible success on the court, off the court, helping people's lives. What's funny is whenever we talk, if it hasn't been a month or we text, it almost feels like always the extension of like we were together like the day before, and it just picks up. Or he'll be watching a match and he'll want to know something about what we're seeing, or going back to one of his matches, or if he's working with the player, he'll ask me a million questions. But he loves to get into deep discussions about the game. He's incredibly passionate. And as Jeannie, if you talk to him, Andre has, if he's talking about a match, photographic memory of every single point. He loves talking about scenarios. He's great to talk to and great to learn from.
Totally.
Love that.
But I have not played him in pickle. He's played my buddy Vince Van Patten, who's really good, and he can thump Vinny now. So he would take me to the woodshed. I play pickle, but he's gotten really good at it. He's put in a lot of work at it.
Yeah, he's so good
and he's
at it.
gotten fit as a fiddle from it.
Yeah, I've also enjoyed listening to Andre on the match calls too. We heard him at the Netflix, and I think you'll get a piece of him at TNT for all the tennis fans out there. What's I feel like we're taking all your time, but we love it. We love having you on. Just let us know if you need to bounce.
No problem.
You're
I
good?
mean, look what I got. I got one sleeping dog there.
Yeah.
I got another one there.
Nice.
The wife is over the moon. Your former teammate Jeff,
Yeah.
Zach. We just had our first grandchild on 12/12/24.
Congrats.
So Kim is over
Congratulations.
babysitting today. So she's out, taking the baby stroller. So I'm watching the dogs. And I was watching the conclave.
They woke up.
And woke up the dogs. They heard
It's a
their
beautiful
name.
day. Yeah, so, no, this is great.
And you know what? That's the knock on the door. Kim told me, so you won't believe what we're waiting for. I'm sure,
Tell us.
have you all been through this? The dryer busted.
Oh,
So
no.
This is like a day in the life of Brad
coming
Gilbert.
Day in the
for,
life.
I love this.
I love it.
the
Can we just
guy
follow you
coming
everywhere?
for a new dryer, because you know what?
Sounds cheap.
You can hang dry clothes, but you can't hang dry. Let me just tell you.
You're good,
Hey,
you're good. Don't worry
hold
about
on 1 minute.
Fernley,
Come back in 30.
2 points away.
Yeah.
What Brad, as like now you're kind of putting your fan hat on. Of course, you're working in so many respects in the sport. What's a player-coach duo that you are most intrigued by, or maybe it's a player that doesn't have a coach that you're intrigued about who the next coach will be? What do you have an eye on for the coaching world in pro tennis right now?
Well, how about this one? Today we had the conclave for the Pope. Is there going to be a conclave? Who's going to be the next center coach?
Yeah.
Because obviously Darren's done an amazing job, and then getting to start with somebody so young that's such a great player, obviously that's probably the one, that's still
Quite
at
the
the
opening.
end of the year, but that's the most intriguing one to me because, I mean, I think he's a great player, and I'm on record saying that he didn't deserve any suspension whatsoever. I mean, I thought that whole thing was a joke. Anytime any player has 1/100000th of something, that's nothing, and it should be just a warning like missing a drug test. But Sinner, and he'd be fun to coach. And obviously some of the other young players. For me personally, I like starting with somebody that's fairly young because you feel like you have a chance to maybe make some changes and make a difference.
Brad, Fabio Fognini going down here 2-3. This might be the last time we see Fabio in Rome, and I think this is going to be his last year. But Brad, now that we're in Rome, we got to ask you about Jannik Sinner. Will it be back to business as usual? Will he be back to his winning ways, or how do you think he's going to come back?
Well, it's a tricky question. Obviously, if you're out for injury, it's probably easier. This is a much more difficult scenario. A much more difficult scenario to come back from, because mentally, how do you peak practicing for this? I think the whole goal is to get matches at Rome, Hamburg, and then be ready for Paris and Wimbledon, because I mean, those are the two most important. It's not about what he really does in Rome, but it's how he peaks physically so he's ready to play best of 5 in Paris. So I think that's the most important thing. And they got to be careful, when you come back, that you didn't go too hard. You don't want to get hurt, but I expect by Paris he's going to be ready, and he'll be one of the top 3 favorites to win that tournament.
BG, you had a fantastic career. I'm just curious, did you always intend to get into coaching, or how did it come about to where you started to get into coaching? Was it always something you wanted to do?
Mark, I think we all coach ourselves. Look at young Andy Murray. He was about the same age as Coco when I started with Coco. I think, and coincidentally, I started with both of them at the same age, at the same tournament. I started with both of them at the Washington, D.C. tournament.
Oh.
You know what? I was playing, and I thought I was going to play for probably 2 or 3 more years. Andre, God bless him, when we went out that night, I had a few beers, and then he started asking me about all the direction of where he was going in his career. We both had to play the next day. I was basically, I think I can help you. So it was Andre who knew, about wanting me should coach before I did. And to be honest, the last 30 years, I never thought it was possible, but I enjoy the coaching more. I really love trying to help someone fulfill their incredible dreams.
Where BG, where are you going? Are you walking to Texas, or where are you going?
No. You know what? I had to go outside. We got an old school house where we got a carport. So I live right at the ocean. And the washer dryer is outside of the carport. The wife hates that, by the way.
Yeah.
So I had to just go show the guy. You see him, he's got the truck. He's probably charging me by the minute, for the new dryer and the installation of the dryer.
Yeah, BG, give us a great Andy Roddick story. I mean, Andy works with us here at Tennis Channel, has his amazing podcast, Serve. You worked with him. You got to have something great for us for Andy.
Andy is a unique character, especially going from Andre to coaching Andy. Andy is kind of, a Metallica song, Fuel to the Fire.
Yeah.
That's Andy. Like, if you say, whatever you say, he's going to say the opposite. So that's kind of like his bravado and how he would pump him up. And, Andre, you could talk 3 hours the night before. And with Andy, you might get 10 seconds, like Mission Impossible, this message is going to implode. So he and you know what? He just how he is. He's very, bada bing, bada boom. And a couple of times with him, quite a few times, I would do my best coaching with him when literally I wanted him to play. He was playing this guy, Cyril Saulnier. And I wanted him to play, the forehand. And I would tell him to play the backhand. And then he would look up at me in the stands and tell me how wrong I was when the guy was missing forehands.
So smart.
So you told him the opposite, basically.
Reverse psychology.
Oh yeah. But if I did that with Andre, that would be, don't come to the court. and that's the nuances that you actually got to learn.
Yeah.
And coaching every player that you coach, that they somehow, Andy Murray, when I would talk about a game plan, I would say I'm wired like a Chevy truck. Like Andre is like a complicated genius or like a Ferrari. And Andy Murray, I would give him the game plan. And he would always, no matter what, why? How did you come to this conclusion? Yeah. Where's your 10,000 words? Where's your data? Where's your thing? Yeah. And I'm like, I just think of this shit and I give it to you. I'm like, I'm not going to get too detailed. But no matter what, he would always, that 3-letter word, why? How'd you come to this? Well, what about if you're wrong?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and part of being a coach, listen, is you set a game plan. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes your opponent has the answer, but you got to be willing to make changes and find things. It's the communication that's really important. But I found with all the different players that I've worked with, the communication lines can be completely different with each player that you coach. That's the unique thing. And then that's how you connect. And obviously now the biggest change from when I started with Andre, it was me and Andre. And then occasionally Gil would come on the road. But now with the top players, you have these massive teams. I mean, hell, you might not even get the whole team in a minivan. That's a unique change in itself, that you might need one of those Splinter vans now.
Brad, we love having you on the show. We love hearing you call the matches. I think fans at home might have thrown up already from all the moving around you've been doing. But thank you for the insight. No, we're all good. We're hoping the best for your dryer. And congrats on becoming a grandfather. Send my love to Zach, the family, and it's just great to have you on the show. Thanks for hanging with us.
I would say go Bears, but they lost to UCLA. That must have gutted you last week.
It's a tough one. We had Billy
on. That was disheveling.
Yeah.
And I'm going to watch this weekend. I'll watch a little college tennis.
Yeah.
We got Rome tennis. It's a great time of year for tennis. And I'm going to just say this. This is my biggest wish for the French. Andre is the last in everything. We need, and I'm sure he'd like not to be the last. So he's the last American just to make the semis of Rome, let alone win it. Yeah. He's the last American man to win the French in '99. Last American to even make the quarterfinals. So we need to, I would love to see an American man make a deep run in Rome. And I want to at least see one American man make the semi. So that would really, listen, it would be great if American man could win it. But let's start with the semi.
I like that. I like that. Realistic. There's a lot of depth. I think we make it happen for you. We know we're leading Americans here at Tennis Channel. Appreciate you, Brad.
Thanks, BG.
Thanks,
Have
Brad.
a great day. Sorry to make you seasick.
We love it. Get that dryer fixed up.
And Jeannie, I'll see you in Washington. We're working again together in Washington.
Yes,
She's fun to work with.
let's do it. Love it.
See you, BG.
Have a great day.